has a wealth of experience in local government and politics, having served in various capacities, including chairperson of Local Economic Development and Job Creation Working Group at South African Local Government Association, National Executive Committee member of SALGA, and board member and political head of AIILSG Special Economic Zone. She holds an advanced diploma in public law and national diploma in management assistant. Additionally, she has completed various certificate programs in municipal management, executive leadership, project management and municipal finance, among others. Ms. Maloka is a skilled communicator and negotiator with advanced decision making and problem solving skills. She has strong service orientation, critical thinking abilities, and well versed in economic and financial management matters. Ladies and gentlemen, let's put our hands together for Ms. Maloka. We also have Dr. Sanjeev Jha, Director Knowledge and Government Relations, India Sanitation Coalition at FICCI. Dr. Sanjeev Jha is a development sector professional with a passion for improving the lives of people through WASH and health and nutrition inventions. He has a PhD in social science and has worked as a researcher for the Government of India for over a decade. He has also been involved in social sector research and consulting for various national and international organizations, focusing on sanitation, health and nutrition issues. He has led the Global Sanitation Fund GSF program in Jharkhand as state head, overseeing its implementation and monitoring. He is currently working with IISc, a senior consultant, bringing his rich experience and expertise to the organization. Let's put our hands together for Mr. Jha. Let's also welcome Mr. P.K. Srivastav, Additional Mission Director, Amrut 2.0 Uttar Pradesh. P.K. Srivastav is a Senior Administrative Officer in the Urban Development Sector of Uttar Pradesh. He has more than 32 years of experience in various capacities in urban local bodies, including Municipal Commissioner, Executive Officer, Project Director and Mission Director. He has joined the service in 1990 after securing 28th rank in the Combined State Services Examination. He has served in different cities such as Varanasi, Lalitpur, Kanpur, Jhansi and Lucknow. He has also handled additional responsibilities related to urban reforms. And he has been awarded President Bronze Medal and President Silver Medal for his outstanding contribution in 1991 and 2001 census respectively. Currently, he is working as an Additional Director Training in Urban Training and Research Institute and an Additional Mission Director, Amrut 2.0 in State Mission Directorate, Uttar Pradesh. Let's put our hands together for Mr. P.K. Srivastav. We also have Mr. Chandra Bhushan Pandey amongst us, Independent Director, Rashtriya Chemicals and Fertilizers Limited. Mr. Pandey has dedicated his life to social work and activism. In 1990, he has become the district head of ABVP in Jaunpur. In 2008, at the age of 36, he resigned from MPPCS and UPPCS to become a full-time social worker. He has founded several organizations including Green Earth Ashram in Pragyaraj 2004, Mission Water for Tomorrow 2008, National Farmers Panchayat 2008, and Jijivisha in 2011 and UP Development Foundation in 2012. His work focuses on environmentalism, sustainable living and community development. Mr. Pandey activism extends to fighting corruption and promoting good governance. Mr. Pandey has also undertaken several awareness raising walks along the banks of the Yamuna and Gomti rivers. He's also launched campaigns such as Let's Go to the Pond and Vriksharopan, which has been widely discussed. Let's put our hands together for Mr. Chandra Bhushan Pandey. And now I would like to hand over it to our moderator.
So friends, I can still probably say good morning and welcome to this session on urban water security and management. Friends, cities have come around water bodies all over the world, and sometime because of the industry, and industry itself has come normally where water is there. So we should expect that water should not be a major concern, but as it has happened, water has become one of the very big challenge for all the cities, and even for the villages also it is becoming a challenge in many cases. It is not only the availability of water, it is the quality of water, what is available. It is the issue of management of the wastewater. These are all becoming challenges, but the good news is these challenges are also throwing opportunities. There are success stories of one or the other type coming from different parts of the world. The Asian cities are also showing exemplary results. There is a challenge, as I said, in equitably providing water to nook and corner. Whether the rich have more access to water and poor have less, that is a challenge. Whether the water which is being supplied, the municipality or water, whosoever is supplying water, is able to provide in terms of good quality, in terms of financial sustainability, managerial sustainability. All these are showing challenges, but very good examples are also coming from different parts. The same water becomes a source of flooding in rainy season. Cities get flooded in rainy season, but there are cities which are impounding the rainwater for betterment, for using in the subsoil aquifers as well as surface water storage. Wastewater treatment, whether wastewater is becoming a burden on cities, whether it is spoiling the water bodies, there are examples. But there are also examples where wastewater is getting converted into a revenue generation model. Wastewater is being treated and getting used in industry or agriculture or maybe in construction activities. So these are the good examples of wastewater becoming an opportunity, and where not, it is becoming a big challenge. Again, treating of wastewater, you end up with the sludge. What do you do with the sludge? In most cases it is a challenge. What to do with the sludge? Highly toxic in many cases. It is quite a challenge. But there are cities which are able to convert the sludge into useful material. So that is how it goes. Groundwater. Many cities world over, Asian cities, particularly coastal cities, because of overexploitation of groundwater, the cities are sinking now. Many cities are sinking because the aquifer is becoming void, and therefore the cities, the high rises are slowly sinking. A big challenge for the cities, but there are cities which are now managing the groundwater very well. So friends, in this session you will hear the good stories, you will hear the challenges and of success stories, financial sustainability, managerial sustainability, technological sustainability, good examples, and you can also contribute. At the end of this, there is question answer session, and my request is that please note down your suggestions, questions, comments in the notebook that has been provided to you, and as soon as the speakers finish, raise your suggestions, questions, and we'll come to a very lively session along with all. And before concluding, I would say that we recall that world at large is concerned. We had last month only, in the month of March, we had the World Water Conference in New York, where once again SDG 6 dealing with wash was highlighted, and all cities have committed to bring out a roadmap. All countries have committed to bring out a roadmap for their cities, which of course is not enforceable by law of the international law, but locally we have to work out a sustainable framework for water and sanitation for all. So with that, I conclude my initial comments and invite among the eminent speakers one by one. And to begin with, I'm not going to repeat the introduction which already has been presented to you, their introduction. And the first speaker will be Mr. Manish Vasuja, who will speak on community participation and water quality monitoring and surveillance. So community participation is extremely critical, because without people's involvement, surveillance will be difficult, quality monitoring will be difficult, and let us see what Mr. Manish Vasuja presents to us. So now over to you, Manish ji.
Thank you, Dr. Krishna. I warmly welcome all the participants and also the extremes, the panelists here. I'm Manish. I work with UNICEF, and UNICEF, you may be knowing that we work primarily in the areas of water sanitation, health, nutrition, child protection, all those areas which are supporting child survival and development. And water sanitation is one of them. As Dr. Krishna has mentioned, SDG 6 talks about water and sanitation, and now there is, in SDG 6, there is a universal kind of approach of safely managed water supply and sanitation. In safely managed water supply, it is not just water security, but water quality is also one important component. So safely managed water supply is defined by people having access to water supply in their premise, available when needed, and free from chemical and microbiological contamination. And the target is by 2030, we will achieve universal coverage. So today I am going to just kind of present one case study from West Bengal, where the state is managing this water quality through community participation. So there is a there are water quality labs which are managed by the department and NGO partners, but also supported by community in the community-based water quality surveillance mechanism. So So my current presentation will talk about water and public health, the quality aspect and its safe limits, then the monitoring aspect, in which I will talk about the labs which are available which are working in West Bengal, and how these are being supported and complemented by the community-based surveillance mechanism also. Overall, I'll not some of you will know about this data, why water quality is so important. So if I talk about children, the growth can only happen if there is no diarrhea, or we can prevent diarrhea, and where water quality plays an important role. So contaminated water induces diarrhea, and this can be prevented by safely management of water supply. And that safe management of water supply starts from the source itself. That source has to provide safe water. Then water handling practices at the household level also contributes into that. So all those aspects, if I combine them together, falls into two categories. One can be covered by the monitoring aspect from source to household. Another is by surveillance aspect, that at household level also we are knowledgeable enough to understand how we can manage water safely in our homes, so that the handling practices are there, how we can handle water safely and don't contribute it to the contamination. And there are two kinds of contamination. One is anthropogenic and another is the natural geogenic contamination. The contamination, basically the contaminants which are more contributing to mortality and morbidity are bacteriological contamination as well as two priority chemical contaminants. One of them is arsenic and another one is fluoride. Microbiological contamination can be managed through risk management approach, but arsenic and fluoride contamination is managed primarily by safe alternate water sources and treatment of existing contaminated water sources. And arsenicosis and fluorosis are two important diseases which we need to focus on. Whenever we talk about safely managed water supply, there are two priority chemical contaminants identified by the practitioners which needs to be managed. And this can be done, 70% of water sources can be effectively managed if we go for safe alternate water supply. Because treatment somehow is, engineering wise it is easier, but when we talk about management, the community based management part becomes difficult. In microbiological contamination and in chemical contamination, in India we follow IS 10500. for safe drinking water, which has a limit of 0.01 parts per million for arsenic. Similarly, for fluoride, it is 1.5 ppm parts per million. For bacteriological and microbiological contamination, the contaminants should be completely absent. Now in West Bengal, how these are being managed? So there is a network of laboratories which are managed by state government, the department, public health engineering department, as well as they have partnered with NGO partners. So the NGO partners, they manage these labs, they run these labs. Most of these labs are NABL accredited. That means they follow scientific processes to quantify both chemical and microbiological contamination. And the sample collection from village or from urban municipal local bodies, they come through sample collectors. So there is a mechanism in which NGO partners engage some local sample collectors. They collect water samples, bring it to lab, water is tested, and then the report goes back to community to inform them about the result of their water quality status. Now, knowing that status, then a villager can take appropriate action if there is, for example, microbiological contamination. Then an advisory also goes through NGO that what action need to be taken at community level to contain that microbiological contamination. It can be source protection, it can be simple treatment such as boiling or chlorination, disinfection. So these are some local initiatives which are taken up through NGO partners to effectively run this monitoring and surveillance system in West Bengal. And I think this can be implemented in other areas as well, because this is happening successfully in West Bengal. This can happen in other areas as well. What is required is basically partnership with NGOs, partnership with some civil society organizations who can partner with government to take up this program at larger level in communities, in all villages and in urban areas. Because ultimately water quality is part of, so if we are providing water supply, that doesn't mean that we are the water is safe. Ultimately, through these labs and water quality surveillance at community level, we can make sure that safely managed water supply, which is available on premise, available when needed, and free from microbiological and chemical contamination, can be accessible to all population across all villages and in urban areas. So with this, I conclude my presentation. If we have any queries, we can discuss it. I think after the presentations.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Manish. Big hand to Mr. Manish. Fine presentation, motivating. So, friends, if you have some ideas about community participation and water quality monitoring and surveillance, please note down. And after the speakers have finished, then when you speak, you can also raise questions or you can give your own experience also. What is your experience of success? Thank you. What is your experience of success? You can say, and so this is excellent, Manish. Thank you. Now, friends, we have another eminent speaker, Mr. Shamim Ehsan Chaudhary, who will be speaking on the importance of sheet flow diagram in urban sanitation to manage fecal sludge and wastewater. Very, very important subject, and give a big hand to Mr. Shamim.
Respected Chair, our expert panelist, honorable guests, ladies and gentlemen. I am here to speak on sheet flow diagram. It's not something very new. It's already 10 years old, used by many cities. So just before starting, today I am from UCL JASPAC, and we're managing one small project which is a municipal network policy advocacy center in South Asia, focused on Nepal and Bangladesh, and we are closely working with local government associations. So I'll try to show some pictures instead of a lot of text or numbers. And finally, I'll try to contribute to the safe water management. That will try. It's a screenshot from the SDG tracker of Bangladesh. And if you see the 6.2.1, the progress is showing 42% in 2019. And the target line showing by 2030, we will achieve 100%. It's not my question to you, it's my question to myself whether it is possible with this data or this trend. So this is the latest one from the UNESCO a couple of weeks back. The report was published, and you see all the indicators are still far from the mid of SDGs. Up to 2022, we see most of the blue lines, which are the progress lines, are very slow, and their strength also very slow. And if you see the sixth line, the safe water and sanitation, there is not that much that makes us happy. So I'm not blaming the SDG tracker, I'm not blaming the data from the UNESCO. What I'm blaming, there is a data gap. This the data could be used for the regional policymakers, but what do we have for our mayors, for our city leaders? Because our mayors, the city leaders, they are the guiding stars of the local development. So until we have something for them, we can't ensure, we can't make sure the progress at local level, which will be finally contribute to this data. Then what is the scene behind? The picture on the right side, if you visit Dhaka, there is a very close to the Gulshan and Baridhara, there is we call Coral slum. So we might have very good sanitation system in Gulshan or Baridhara, but when we have a big slum like Coral, and if we don't include them in our plan, then the security of the water, then the sanitation system is not, we should say, fully functional. See the picture on the left. I'm sure that it does not require an explanation, because this is very common in manywhere, because all the cities are not Aero City. There are so many cities having similar pictures. Then what we did from MUNAS, in 2020, we did 10 assessment in 10 cities in Bangladesh and Nepal. It's an example from Lalmonirhat. So there are some data showing that 52% of the household toilets are lined with high risk, I would say, water flows, rivers or lines. But we should make sure that our city leaders, they don't have these critical pictures. Rather, let's have something which is more comfortable for them, which is easy for them to understand. And that's why we like to reintroduce the SFD, that is a sheet flow diagram. And before the sheet flow diagram, this is the ideal situation of sanitation value chain. Containment has to be good, emptying, it has to be good, then transport, then treatment, and the reuse or disposal. So this is the way actually we have to address the sanitation system. And in this system, if there is something wrong, that will be showed in red color, and if there's something good, that will show in the green color. So let's go to the SFDs. So where is the Lalmonirhat SFD? And what I said earlier, that for our mayors, we can't provide a huge book or lot of data or hard data or numbers. There is not their issue, because they are the guiding stars. They could guide us with seeing such pictures of its city. So it's showing that 9% of that city's sanitation system is safe, and rest of the sanitation system is not safe. So let's go to Dhulikhel municipality of Nepal. You see 51% showing green, that means we should say safe. regardless on-site or off-site. I'm giving them the average data, and 49% are unsafe. It's one of the Indian city from Tamil Nadu, also showing that a very few portion is safe and rest of the part are unsafe. So this is the sheet flow diagram which I'm recommending for our mayors, for our city leaders, so that they could understand well and they could guide us, people like us or expert or engineers or planners, so that they could come with good plans. And what I also recommend, because of showing the first two slides, the SDG tracker and the UNESCO report, that the data gap, because of the algorithm of data collection, because every country have their own system, and joint monitoring program which we know that as JMP, actually they are responsible for this data. And to minimize this data gap, I'm recommending to accept SFD as part of 6.2, not for whole. Part of 6.2 for the data measuring, we are recommending this SFD. This is my last one. You see the picture on the left, Waling municipality of Gandaki province in Nepal. There is a nice water stream on the left, and just in the middle you see the flower garden. Actually that is the fecal/treatment plant made by that city. Since 2019 with Muna's support, with AIILSG project support, they made a nice fecal/treatment plant. And on the right side, the last picture is from last December. Kids are playing on that fecal/treatment plant, because that is no more a treatment plant, that became a sanitation park. And kids are playing there, people are going there for the leisure time. And interestingly, the treated water from this fecal/treatment plant going to that water stream without any harmful elements, because of there some precaution measures, BOD or COD. I'm not going to the technical terms, but this is happening. And that's why I still again recommend, let's support our mayors, our city leaders to develop SFDs and to help them to understand the situation or the scenario at local level, so that they could guide all of us to make further plan, to implement the plans, regardless limitation of resource. And finally, I'll recommend again to accept SFD as a measuring tool for 6.2. And that's all from my side. Thank you very much. And if you have any question, of course AIILSG is here. AIILSG Spark, you know very well. We'll be happy to answer you. And secondly, in Nepal, 65 SFD under development by Municipal Association of Nepal. So if any of you are interested, our colleagues in Nepal and Muan will be very happy to host you to show the process and the results. That's all from me. Thank you very much.
One of the biggest challenges in waste management segment in the cities is the fecal waste management. And the way has been shown by Nepal and other places also. I mean, whaling example you have given, it's a wonderful thing. So compliments to Nepal and their cities, and thank you Mr. Hassan for bringing to our notice. I'm sure other cities' success stories may be here. Those who have success stories during the question answer session, you can share your own city. If you are doing something similarly or even better or similarly good, please do share, so everybody gets encouraged that fecal waste can be managed. It's a real challenge. Very big municipalities are not able to do it in many cases. Very big municipalities having a lot of money, but money is not the solution everywhere. So wonderful thing. Thank you once again, Mr. Shamim. Now friends, we have yet another eminent speaker in Madam Lerato Francina Maloka, who will be speaking on integrated water resource management for the realization of the SDG 6, that is water related SDG. Welcome madam, please go ahead.
Thank you very much, Program Director. Firstly, let me greet and acknowledge our Honorable Mayors, commissioners, senior city government representatives, representatives of urban development authorities, policymakers, distinguished guests, and Dr. Zahid. Water security is a topic of a global importance. For South Africa, it is of pronounced importance as we are of the 40 countries that is really in dry need, that is very dry in the world, and our constitution recognizes access to water as a basic human right. So at the level of municipality, the local government, it is a right that each citizen must have water access. We also recognize the phenomenon of urbanization, where it is expected that 90% of the global increase in urbanization will be in Asia and Africa. In South Africa, 63% of the population already live in urban areas, and this is expected to rise to 71% by 2030. These two realities considered jointly make urban water security critical for South Africa as a country. In our context, the provision of domestic and industrial water and sanitation is a purview for local government municipalities, as it is in planning and other activities related to management of cities and towns. Urban water security does become a primary concern for local government. My inputs will be based on the following 5 points. My first point is on water securities in cities, overview of challenges in access of water and its management. The sustainable and reliable provision of water in cities appears in becoming increasingly challenging in the wake of climate change across the globe. Developing nations like South Africa are no exception to this, where in one half of a country we deal with extreme flooding events like we have experienced in eThekwini Metro, home of the city of Durban. This while in other half of the country is simultaneously dealing with the extreme drought, as is the case in the Nelson Mandela Metro, and as was the case with the city of Cape Town, and they averted day zero few years ago. Moving from the climate change challenges, there is the obstacle of infrastructure finance for both the existing infrastructure to ensure adequate access, with the many competing needs and economy that is still recovering from COVID pandemic restrictions. The fiscus is severely constrained and infrastructure investment is not at adequate level. A developing country such as South Africa then also has to deal with its legacy discrimination and present levels of abnormal high inequality, which combine to create scenario of inequitable urban access to water, where the urban poor can become second-class citizens who are not catered for. There are many other challenges, but these are the most pronounced magnitude and impact in a South African context. The second point is on developing policy and institutional frameworks to enhance IWRM and conservation of wetlands, urban and water bodies. Appropriate policy and enabling institutional framework are catalysts in enhancing urban integrated water resource management. These instruments can help us to move from traditional understanding of water resource management being exclusive about catchment and dams to a more dynamic and understanding that maximize urban water resources utilization through sustainable urban drainage system and urban water harvesting and other similar innovations. A key component in enhancing integrated water resource management, urban or otherwise, is efficiency. The practice of making the most of every drop and every stage of water cycle. Efficiency must be explicit objectives of a policy level and a common design feature of all institutional frameworks. In our own context in South Africa, much work is underway to start making these necessary changes. On the third point is around the stakeholder engagement and public participation, the role of government, the role of civil society organization, private sector and local communities. While stakeholders and participation seem obvious, they are not always easy to achieve. There is often the temptation to speedily implement programs or projects to ensure communities enjoy the intended benefits and not delay matters with stakeholder engagement and participation. But what is becoming increasingly apparent the world over is that nothing is sustainable without adequate stakeholder engagement and public participation. In the South African context, we have legislated stakeholder engagement and participation in infrastructure development at all levels of government. We have found this practice to be immensely helpful as the insight gained only through engagement and participation that ensures endeavors are sustainable. We have also commenced on a drive to engage with the private sector in this undertaking when found a need to invest building trust between communities, government, and civil society. We work to build this trust as a basis of collaboration that can be difficult when there are divergent interests and may require the use of legislative instruments at the disposal of only government. But regulations might be enough to start building trust, but is almost always never enough to sustain it. In the end, as human beings, we must work together to our collective good and that of our world. The third point is on capacity building and knowledge management for effective implementation of IWRIM. Capacity building of the entire ecosystem is a prerequisite if all stakeholders are to play their part effectively. Government must be capacitated to govern appropriately. But equally important is the capacitation of civil society and our local communities and private sector. If one part of the chain does not understand or if one of the chain does not understand or it is not capacitated to play its part, the system fails and you're unable to move forward. The temptation to focus only on one part of the system must be realized. We need the entire system to work if we are to move towards sustainable and reliable access of urban water for all. And the last concluding point is on a best practice and case studies on water management. One case is the work done by the city of Cape Town to defer day zero until rains arrived. The city managed to mobilize all stakeholders to agree on a common mission of inter alia preserving water. This saw a significant decrease in water use across the city and brought the city much needed to execute other initiatives. This was a great example of how efficiency is possible when stakeholders work together on the basis of trust, and this is supplemented with policy and enabling institutional frameworks. I thank you.
So, your claps have already thanked Madam Maloka for a very excellent presentation on sustainable management of water resources, including how to involve the people, communities, and the private sector, and also the capacity building issues. Very, very important points have been flagged, and the importance of good case studies also have been also highlighted by her. And once again, I would say your experience in community participation in water management, including capacity building, private sector role, etc., do share as soon as all the panelists conclude their presentation. Your city's experience, what you have seen happening in your city, what you are managing, if you are city manager, it will be wonderful to get that feedback from you. So all will be enriched, kindled by the presentation of the respective eminent panelists. So friends, now in the series, the next eminent panelist is Dr. Sanjeev Jha, who has been introduced already to you, and he will be speaking on the importance of PPP funding of urban sanitation initiatives for long-term sustainability and impact. So one of the very important goals or tools for managing, including the financing and operation of the infrastructure urban projects, sanitation projects, is PPP. So let us hear from Dr. Sanjeev Jha, and do give a big hand to him so that he gets motivated. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. In fact, it's a huge opportunity for me to be here on this platform and to be able to, speak something under the chairmanship of Sudhir sir, who we always fancied as an officer with Government of India, with remarkable vision and everything. So I've had that privilege of having, interacted with him in the past. I represent India Sanitation Coalition, which is chaired by Ms. Nainalal Kidwai at FICCI, and I'm looking after the knowledge management and government relations part. And FICCI has got, these two important missions in the water and sanitation space. So one is India Sanitation Coalition, and the other is FICCI Water Mission. Interestingly, FICCI Water Mission had undertaken an interesting study involving some 20 odd public-private partnership wastewater management systems across country, and then they had been able to come up with certain findings. So prior to sharing that findings, since the topic demands that I should be able to throw some light on the existing models of public-private partnership in that space as to which ones of them have actually been successful and which have not succeeded for whatever reasons. So see, let's understand a couple of things. I think most of you may be knowing, but in order to be able to set that context, it is important to understand that there are basically three models of the public-private partnership in that space. One is the build, operate, and transfer with end user PPP model, where the end user is the private sector itself. The advantage is that if the end user is the private sector party itself, then there is absolutely no payment risk which is involved. There is also no techno-managerial risk which is involved, because it is the private sector who have to ensure, in consultation or in agreement with the municipal corporation, that let's hire an intermediary who would be able to do a decent job out of the the entire municipal wastewater being collected through the existing sewer line, or even if the sewer lines are to be laid out, those can be effectively laid out in a time-bound manner, and that municipal water can be sourced from the households in the catchment of the industrial establishment of that private user. Once that water is picked up, collected, then it is effectively treated either at an existing STP, which has the adequate capacity to be able to treat the water being collected, or as we would see in the case of Nagpur Municipal Corporation, the existing capacity of the existing STP was first, enhanced from 100 MLD to 200 MLD. Then the wastewater being collected, which was effectively treated. And then the two power corporations or the power plants which existed in Nagpur, they bought the entire water. So it was a win-win situation for this municipal corporation, who were able to get rid of the entire municipal wastewater, right? It was treated, and then it was a source of revenue for the corporation as well, because that technical intermediary which was involved, it was an agreement between them and the corporation that the revenue generated from out of that private party would be shared between them. Slightly under the weather, so the next model was the build, operate, and transfer with the private party as the end user. Then there are build, operate, and transfer with annuity payments. There are several examples of it, and even in the wastewater sector. The problem is that the moment it is a question of annuity payment being made to the private operator, then there is payment risk involved. So the problem is that with the hybrid annuity model, the private sector comes up with a capital, the initial capital, and the investment is made by them, and then the entire cost, the entire capital cost, besides the operation and maintenance cost, towards that project is made by the concessionaire. But the problem is that in most of these, wastewater projects, the concessionaire is the municipal corporation, and the industry's perspective is that the municipal corporation, unless if it is in a sound financial health, is fine. If it is not in sound financial health, then the payment risk is always involved. So in order to be able to overcome that, the industry feels, and since I also represent FICCI here, so it's important to understand as to what could be done so that the payment risk on the part of this municipal corporation can actually be minimized. The way out that FICCI has already recommended and would still recommend is that if the payment guarantee can be taken care of by the Government of India, then probably the build, operate, transfer with this annuity payments is also a successful model. Time? Yeah, 3 minutes. Now just in the end, one good example of the Nagpur Municipal Corporation. See, the thumb rule is that 80% of the potable water supplied to a city returns as sewage. And our towns generate over, I'm not going to that. So Nagpur was absolutely no different, with 27 lakh population consuming 700 mld of fresh water daily. Roughly 80% actually translated to 550 mld converted sewage. So this sewage was polluting all the 3 river streams in Nagpur. So the only way out was to be able to treat this sewage in order to be able to free the city of Nagpur from this air pollution, which is already creating a menace. It's a successful model with a total cost of about 130 crores up and running, and it's a 30-year contract. So thank you so much. There are so many examples, but then time does not permit. Thank you.
I think, friends, it is a very, very important presentation made by Dr. Sanjeev Jha on the PPP funding, because we always say that wastewater is a real challenge for municipality, but here is the example where it has been converted into a revenue source. Of course, we have question answer session, but if you can just raise your hand in your city, is wastewater being converted into a revenue source? Just raise the hand, we'll discuss it later. In any city, is wastewater being sold to industry or to construction or to any city you are doing it, anybody else? Okay, if not, then we'll discuss once again your questions, and that leads me to one announcement, that while question answer session will be there, but if you have question already in your mind, if you could write down on the piece of paper, and I will request the organizers here to collect from your table. It will help us to use the time better and give opportunity to those who have articulated. Okay, so just write down your question on the piece of paper that you have and keep it on your table. And I request the organizers to kindly make a round and collect the papers and pass on to me. So friends, with that I suggest that we give a big applaud to Dr. Sanjeev Jha for the very motivating presentation. And if anybody is here from Nagpur, special compliments to them. and we look forward to more such cases, case studies and examples. Wonderful, thanks. So now, friend, the next eminent speaker is Mr. P.K. Srivastava, who has been introduced to you, and he will be speaking on the Uttar Pradesh septage management journey, the case studies of Jhansi, Chunar and Bijnor cities. So over to you, Mr. Srivastava.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, All India Institute of Local Self-Government and organizers for giving me this big opportunity. I will present mixed in Hindi and English, so I could connect with my audience and who are on the YouTube, both, because I am from the Hindi belt state. Sir, first of all, we are talking for the urban water security and management. As we know, our water level is going down continuously. If you compare with the time of independence, the per capita water availability is 1/4. We are not able to hold the rainwater which we were expected, so that the recharging is not happening as per the expectation level. So what options are left with us? That is only the water management and water governance. As we know, our most of the cities are dependent on non-sewered system. If we talk about the Uttar Pradesh, the 80% population is dependent on on-site sanitation system. Only 20% is linked with our sewer system. If we talk about the sewerage system in Uttar Pradesh, the total generation is about 8,300 MLD and the installed capacity is only 3,500, meaning thereby only 40% fewer we are able to manage for the treatment. Our urbanization is continuously on the upper hand. Our industrialization is based on our urban infrastructure. So what makes us to shift on this fecal sludge management? As we know, in the process of making our cities open defecation free, there were a lot of toilets constructed in the individual household capacity, public toilets, community toilets. But the next challenge is how it will be treated, because right now there is no system of proper treatment. Most of our fecal sludge is going untreated in the water body. So, Government of India published FSM policy in 2017. And consequently, Uttar Pradesh notified the urban Uttar Pradesh state septage policy in 2019. With that time, in Amrit, our state action plan, we have 60 cities in Uttar Pradesh which population is more than 1 lakh. We have make provision each city should have FSTP or co-treatment plant. Where there is a STP, already STP, there are 21 cities. We have make provision 21 cities with the co-treatment plant, because we don't need the land in that area for the establishing the FSTP, where the STP already exists. Where there is no STP, we have provision, make provision 37 cities with the independent FSTP. अब देखिए, इसमें जो मुख्य बातें थी कि हम लोग जो इश्यूज थे, कैसे हमारा जो पैराडाइम शिफ्ट हुआ पॉलिसी में, कि जो हमारे 30 सिटीज में करीब हमारे पास 107 STP ऑलरेडी चल रहे हैं, उसका जो ऑपरेशन मेंटेनेंस का जो इश्यू है वो इतना बड़ा है कि आज अर्बन लोकल बॉडीज आर नॉट एबल टू पे द मेंटेनेंस चार्जेस, और उसका जो इम्पैक्ट आता है उसकी क्वालिटी पे आता है. सो गवर्नमेंट थॉट कि अगर हम इसको FSTP पे शिफ्ट करें तो इट इज लो कॉस्टिंग, और सबसे बड़ी चीज है लैंड की अवेलेबिलिटी. जितनी लैंड एसटीपी के लिए चाहिए उसका बहुत कम हिस्सा हमें चाहिए एफएसटीपी के लिए। 1 acre to 2.5 acre land is required as per the population and as per the household. So when we come on the capital cost is very high in the STP. As you know कि जितने भी हमारे गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया की स्कीम्स हैं, चाहे वो अमृत की हो चाहे एसबीएम की हो, देयर इज अ यूएलबी शेयर as per the depending upon the population 30%, 20%. ULBs are not able to bear that capex right now because they don't have that much revenue generation. फिर उसके बाद जो ऑपरेशन कॉस्ट का जो इशू आता है, आपको पता है कि इलेक्टेड बॉडी कभी भी जो सीवर टैक्स है, सीवर चार्जेस है, वो कभी बढ़ने नहीं देते। तो उसका रिजल्ट ये होता है कि जो उसका कॉस्ट रिकवरी है वो प्रॉपर तरीके से नहीं हो पा रही है। फिर इसके अलावा जब आप एसटीपी के लिए सीधा बड़ा हमें रोड्स की डिगिंग करनी पड़ती है और उसको पूरा कंप्लीट होने में मोर देन सालों लग जाते हैं, और एक बार अगर डिगिंग हो गई तो उस रेस्टोरेशन ऑफ द रोड जो है कम से कम 2-3 साल तक ठीक से हो नहीं पाता। एक बार बन जाता है, बरसात हुई, फिर सड़क बैठ जाती है, तो बहुत सारा इनकन्वीनियंस पब्लिक को होता है। तो इसलिए यूपी ने इस पे जो हम लोग शिफ्ट हुए। अब ये देखिए जो हमारा जर्नी ऑफ सेप्टेज मैनेजमेंट इन यूपी, हम लोग जब अमृत जब स्टार्ट हुआ तब से इसको हमने शुरू किया। फिर 2017 में स्टेट गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया का नोटिफिकेशन आया, 2019 में स्टेट गवर्नमेंट यूपी का आया। फिर उसके बाद हमने इसमें एक और काम किया कि हमने सेंटर फॉर साइंस एंड एनवायरनमेंट के साथ एक एमओयू साइन किया ताकि हमको उनसे टेक्निकल सपोर्ट मिले और यूएलबीज को हम हैंड होल्ड करा पाए कि इसका कैसे हमें ऑपरेशन मेंटेनेंस करना है। अभी जो हमारा वर्ल्ड वाटर डे था उस पे हमने 37 एफएसटीपी और को ट्रीटमेंट प्लांट का इनॉग्रेशन कराया, जिससे कि हमारा स्टेट जो है वो सैनिटेशन चेन वैल्यू की ओर हमारा बढ़े। नेक्स्ट स्लाइड। ये हमारा स्टेट का पूरा मैप है जिसमें कहाँ कहाँ हमारा को ट्रीटमेंट प्लांट है 22, कहाँ कहाँ एफएसटीपीज लगे हैं, कहाँ बोथ दोनों हैं, उसका एक व्यू है। ये कंपोनेंट ऑफ मॉडल फिकस।
Ladies and gentlemen, just an important announcement. In case you're looking forward for the translation, you may please collect your headphones from the registration desk. And in case you just want to raise your hands, our team member will definitely come and deliver you at your respective tables and seats. Okay, I can see a lot of hands there. Please feel free to ask for translation headphones. The team members will be there to help you with the headphones for the translation.
Thank you. So, जो मैं इस पे बता रहा था कि क्यों हम लोग एफएसटीपी की ओर शिफ्ट हुए और क्यों उस ओर बढ़ रहे हैं। अब दूसरा जो हमने किया कि एफएसटीपी के पहले जो हमने बेसिक्स जो सिटी लेवल स्ट्रेटजी बनाई, उसमें हमारा जो एग्जिस्टिंग सैनिटेशन सिनेरियो है उसकी हमने एक स्टडी कराई। उसमें जो मेन बातें थे सिटी वाइज कि नंबर ऑफ हाउस होल्ड कितना है सिटी में, कितना सिटी पॉपुलेशन है, कितना जो कवर्ड है एग्जिस्टिंग सीवरेज नेटवर्क से, और कितना हमारा नॉन सीवर सिस्टम से ऑन साइट सैनिटेशन सिस्टम से कवर है। नंबर ऑफ पब्लिक टॉयलेट, नंबर ऑफ कम्युनिटी टॉयलेट कितने हैं वो हमने एसेस किया। उसके बाद कितने जो प्राइवेट ऑपरेटर हैं उनके पास कितनी गाड़ियां हैं, जो पेमेंट वो करते हैं हाउस होल्ड से जो प्राइवेट ऑपरेटर को वो कितना करते हैं। फिर हमने एफएसटीपी के कंस्ट्रक्शन में 2-3 चीज़ और ध्यान रखी कि जो लैंड का सिलेक्शन है वो ऐसा रखा कि वहाँ जहाँ पे हमारा प्रॉपर एक्सेस हो, एफएसटी जो रोड है वो प्रॉपरली हम लोग वहाँ पे गाड़ियाँ पहुँच सकती हों, और एडिक्वेट क्वांटिटी ऑफ फीकस स्लज वहाँ पहुँचे। एक और इश्यू आता है लोकल बॉडीज में, वो आता है बाई लॉज का कि साहब हम कैसे वसूलें। दे डोंट हैव द capacity to prepare the bylaws. So we at the state level we prepare model bylaws and we circulated it to urban local bodies. On that basis of model bylaws, they can prepare their own bylaws so that they can realize their user charges from this service. Next. Now ease of septage management. ये जैसा कि स्वच्छ सर्वेक्षण में पैटर्न है कि एक सिटीज के बीच में कंपटीशन होता है सैनिटेशन के लिए, क्लीनलीनेस के लिए, सॉलिड वेस्ट मैनेजमेंट के लिए, वैसे ही हम लोग आपस में जो हमारे सिटीज है, जो कि हमारे 40 सिटीज के ऊपर हो चुके हैं और इन कमिंग डेज हमारे 60 सिटीज इससे कवर हो जाएंगे, तो आपस में कंपटीशन के लिए हमने स्टार रेटिंग का प्रोविजन किया है. बढ़ाइए स्लाइड को. नेक्स्ट. और नेक्स्ट. ये इसमें कुछ हमने पैरामीटर रखे हैं, सिंगल स्टार, डबल स्टार और 3 स्टार. जैसे कि इसमें जो हमारा ODF है, ODF प्लस का जो सिस्टम है, तो इसी तरीके से इसमें रखा है. इसमें 3 शहरों का जो हमने सबसे पहले था, झांसी, बिजनौर और चुनार. क्योंकि टाइम बहुत कम है तो उसमें मैं पूरा भी एक्सप्लेन नहीं कर पाया, बट थैंक यू फॉर गिविंग मी दिस अपॉर्चुनिटी एंड थैंक यू सर.
So thank you, P.K. Srivastava Sahab. You have made very excellent presentation. Of course, we know that you had much more to say, and I hope there will be opportunity now. Even time will be there on city-wide inclusive sanitation and ease of septage management. Very, very important themes. Septage management is a very big challenge for any city, and often it is being ignored. Often we are not giving enough attention because quantity is not very large, but the adverse impact on the environment is large. It is like a bomb actually. There is a lot of potent problems. So how it is being managed will be a very interesting theme you have touched upon. Thank you very much, Mr. Srivastava. Now friends, we have in the panel of eminent speakers, the last before the last is but not the least definitely is Mr. Chandra Bhushan Pandey, who will be speaking. He has been introduced to you already, so I am not repeating that. He will be speaking on how to increase the rainfall and use of technology in urban water management. Over to you, Mr. Pandey, and a big hand to Mr. Pandey, please.
Respected Chair, colleague panelists and audience. Basically, a lot of things have been discussed here, and I will try to speak in English and Hindi, and basically technical word will be in English, otherwise being a Hindi mother tongue, so I prefer to speak in Hindi. I have to discuss one thing what sir explained about the topic, that how to increase rainfall. In fact, Mission Kal Ke Liye Jal, a campaign driven by me and my team in Prayagraj in 2004. मिशन कल के लिए जल इस अभियान में हम लोग कुल वर्षा की मात्रा कैसे बढ़े, जो वर्षा का पानी जमीन पर आया वो जमीन के अंदर और जमीन के ऊपर जो सतही जल स्रोत हो वहां सुरक्षित कैसे हो, और जो जमीन के अंदर पानी चला गया उसका मितव्ययी इस्तेमाल हो. 3 बिंदुओं पर हम लोग काम कर रहे हैं. मेरा सौभाग्य रहा कि मैं दिल्ली 2010 में पैदल आया था प्रयागराज से और 38 दिनों में यहाँ पहुंचा था और तत्कालीन राष्ट्रपति प्रतिभा पाटिल जी को मिला. फिर मैं दोबारा पानी पर ही बात करने के लिए उपस्थित हूँ. कुल वर्षा की मात्रा बढ़ाने को लेकर के तमाम वैज्ञानिक तथ्य और पुष्टि को लेकर के मैं बहुत से केस स्टडी नहीं है, लेकिन मैं इतना बताना चाहूंगा जो सबके सामने है कि जहां पर हरियाली ज्यादा है, जहां की मिट्टी उपजाऊ दिखती है, वहां पे पानी भी ज्यादा गिरता है. दुनिया के जितने मरुस्थल हैं, भारत में भी जो कम वर्षा के क्षेत्र हैं, कर्नाटक के कुछ भाग हैं, महाराष्ट्र के कुछ भाग हैं, आंध्र प्रदेश के कुछ भाग हैं, लद्दाख का हमारा क्षेत्र है, राजस्थान का भाग है, पश्चिमी भाग, तो इस तरह से गुजरात का कुछ भाग, वहां हम देखेंगे कि वहां हरियाली की कमी है. तो बेसिकली एक तथ्य यह है कि जो बारिश पर हम जब बात करते हैं तो बारिश को जो निर्धारित करने वाले तत्व हैं, फैक्टर्स डिसाइडिंग द रेनफॉल, उसमें लैटिट्यूड और एल्टीट्यूड की बात आती है, डिस्टेंस फ्रॉम द सी. 3 चीजें ऐसी है जिसको हम बदल नहीं सकते हैं. लेकिन 2 बातें और भी उसमें आती हैं, जिसमें है कि ह्यूमिडिटी ऑफ द एयर एंड टेम्परेचर और विंड वेव. तो इसमें हम देखते हैं कि ह्यूमिडिटी ऑफ एयर जो है ये पौधों से तय होती है और समुद्र से तय होती है और वाटर बॉडीज से तय होती है. तो चूंकि समुद्र से जिन भी देशों का, जिन भी स्थानों का, जिन भी राज्यों का दूरी अधिक है, वहां पर हम वाटर बॉडीज को मैनेज करके, इवेपोरेशन को बढ़ा करके और ग्रीनरी को बढ़ा करके, ट्रांसपिरेशन को बढ़ा करके हवाओं में नमी ला सकते हैं, जो आगे चल के वर्षा में सहायक हो सकती है. मैं अभी देख रहा था कि मथुरा में कुल वर्षा कितनी है? उत्तर प्रदेश के एक जिला मथुरा है, भगवान श्री कृष्ण को कभी वहां गोवर्धन उठाना पड़ा था पानी के प्रबंधन को लेके। तो मैं जब देखा कि आज भी मथुरा में केवल 54 सेंटीमीटर पानी बरसता है, जबकि भारत का जो औसत वर्षा है 118 सेंटीमीटर है, उत्तर प्रदेश का भी जो औसत वर्षा है वो 90 सेंटीमीटर के आसपास है। तो मथुरा की जो चुनौतियां हैं उसमें जो एक बिंदु मैं देख रहा था कि पश्चिम उत्तर प्रदेश का जो पूरा पार्ट है, हरियाली की कमी है। शेष तो जो पहाड़ है वो बारिश को प्रभावित करते हैं, एल्टीट्यूड लेटीट्यूड प्रभावित करते हैं, समुद्र से दूरी प्रभावित करती है। लेकिन जो चीजें, ये चारों बातें हैं, ये हम प्रबंधित नहीं कर सकते हैं। पांचवी जो चीज है रिलीफ, स्ट्रक्चर ऑफ द लैंड। आज जिस तरह से पहाड़ों का उत्खनन हो रहा है, आज जिस तरह से धरती बर्बाद हो रही है, और जिस तरह से धरती में मिट्टी से लेके मिनरल्स को लेकर के धरती के स्वास्थ्य पे असर आ रहा है, तो उसमें भी थोड़ा चिंता करते हुए हम कहीं न कहीं से वर्षा की मात्रा बढ़ाने की दिशा में आगे बढ़ सकते हैं। दो बातें इसमें मुझे और जोड़ते हुए फिर अगले विषय की ओर मैं आता हूँ। जहां तक मैं समझ पाया हूँ और हमारी पूरी टीम ने जो अध्ययन करके देखा है कि कुछ वृक्ष ऐसे हैं, जैसे जामुन का वृक्ष है, वो वर्षा को आकर्षित करता है। इसके अलावा एक राष्ट्रीय वृक्ष रोपण अभियान हम लोग चला रहे हैं, जिसमें उत्तर प्रदेश की सरकार भी हमारे अभियान में हाथ बटा रही है। इसमें पीपल, पाकड़, बरगद, गूलर, आम, नीम, इमली, महुआ, ये 8 पेड़ों की हम बात करते हैं जो इकोनॉमिक रूप से भी वाइबल है, हेल्दी है, लॉन्ग लाइफ है, बड़ी कैनोपी है और बायोडाइवर्सिटी को भी प्रोटेक्ट करते हैं। और इनकी जो ऑक्सीजन जनरेटिंग पावर है वो भी एस्टेब्लिश्ड है, ज्यादा है। और सबसे बड़ी चीज, बड़ी कैनोपी होने से अधिक ट्रांसपिरेशन कर पाते हैं। तो इस तरह से सामान्य व्यवहारिक तथ्य है जिसके माध्यम से आगे आने वाली जो चुनौतियां हैं उसमें हम बारिश को बढ़ा करके भी समस्या का समाधान कर सकते हैं। अब जो बारिश का पानी धरती पर आता है, अभी मैं उत्तर प्रदेश के जो जल स्रोतों की डेटा का एक एनालिसिस किया, आरटीआई के माध्यम से जो सूचनाएं पूरे प्रदेश की इकट्ठा किया, और उसको जब पूरे क्षेत्रफल को, तालाबों और सब नदियों नालों को जोड़ा गया, तो लगभग 4% एरिया ऐसी है जो सतही जल स्रोत के रूप में है खसरा खतौनी में। और आज जिस तरह से वो एरिया सिमट रही है, तो जो बारिश का पानी गिरता है उस पानी को हम रोक नहीं पाते। और आज सच्चाई ये है कि भारत में लगभग 4000 बिलियन क्यूबिक मीटर पानी गिरता है, और 4000 बिलियन क्यूबिक मीटर में से हम लगभग 300 बिलियन क्यूबिक मीटर पानी को ही स्टोर करने की हमारे पास प्राकृतिक रूप से क्षमता विद्यमान है। और वो आज जो परिस्थितियां हैं, जिस तरह से नदियां सिमट रही हैं, तालाब सिमट रहे हैं, तो इन परिस्थितियों में कहीं न कहीं से जो ऊपर का पानी गिर रहा है, अगर उसको हम रोक लें, उसको संरक्षित कर लें, उसका 10% हिस्सा भी कर लें, तो आज जो अर्बन वाटर मैनेजमेंट की चैलेंजेस है वो कहीं टिकने वाले नहीं है। मैं दिल्ली के आंकड़े को देख रहा था कि जो एनसीआर का क्षेत्रफल है और जो दिल्ली, पुराना दिल्ली है, उसके क्षेत्रफल को देख रहा था, तो मैंने कैलकुलेट किया कि अगर 50 सेंटीमीटर जो वर्षा होती है, अगर इसको हम वाटर हार्वेस्टिंग के माध्यम से स्टोर कर ले जाएं, तो आज जो दिल्ली की कुल आबादी है, आगे आने वाले 10 टाइम्स आबादी भर की बारिश यहाँ हो रही है और प्रोजर हो सकती है। लेकिन हमारे पास वाटर हार्वेस्टिंग की कैपेसिटी नहीं है। पॉलिसीज भी हमारी कई हैं जो जमीन पर अभी उतारने की दृष्टि से काम करना है। ये विषय है, इस पे आपका ध्यानाकर्षण निवेदित था। अभी दूसरे विषय पर मैं थोड़ा बोलना चाहूंगा कि जो टेक्नोलॉजी के एप्लीकेशन से, यूज ऑफ द टेक्नोलॉजी है, हाउ वी कैन मैनेज स्मार्टली द अर्बन वाटर सप्लाई सिस्टम। अर्बन वाटर सप्लाई सिस्टम में मैं एक केस स्टडी मेरे पास है। मैं चूंकि राष्ट्रीय केमिकल एंड फर्टिलाइजर लिमिटेड मुंबई का इंडिपेंडेंट डायरेक्टर होने के नाते वहां की एक केस स्टडी के बारे में संक्षिप्त रखना चाहूंगा। चूंकि हम सभी जानते हैं कि जो पानी का कुल इस्तेमाल है उसमें लगभग 70% कृषि में होता है, और दूसरा सबसे बड़ा सेगमेंट जो पानी में खर्च कर रहा है वो पावर सेक्टर है और इंडस्ट्री सेक्टर है। जिस अर्बन वाटर सप्लाई के लिए हम लोग यहाँ डिस्कस कर रहे हैं, वहां कुल पानी केवल 4% खर्च होता है। तो 4% पानी जहां खर्च हो रहा है उस पर चर्चा ज्यादा हो रही है, लेकिन 96% पानी और जो 96% पानी जहां हो रहा है उस पर बात कम होती है। मैं बात अभी पावर सेक्टर में केवल देखेंगे तो लगभग, अगर यूएसए का आंकड़ा ले लें, भारत में थोड़ा कम है, यूएसए में 32% पानी पावर सेक्टर में, थर्मल पावर प्रोडक्ट्स में जा रहा है, जबकि वहां पे एग्रीकल्चर सेकंड नंबर पे है। हमारे यहाँ एग्रीकल्चर अराउंड 70% है और पावर सेक्टर हमारे यहाँ वो भी करीब 6% है। तो मैं एक इंडस्ट्री की बात कर रहा हूँ, राष्ट्रीय केमिकल एंड फर्टिलाइजर लिमिटेड। उन्होंने मुंबई म्यूनिसिपल कॉर्पोरेशन से 45 मिलियन लीटर पर डे के हिसाब से सीवेज वाटर लिया, और वो मैं प्रोजेक्ट देख कर आया, बहुत सक्सेसफुल है। 45 मिलियन लीटर सीवेज वाटर लिया और उसको ट्रीट करके 33 मिलियन लीटर पर डे का सीवेज वाटर हम तैयार कर लेते हैं। दैट इज ड्रिंकेबल इन ऑल क्वालिटी पैरामीटर्स। और उस 45 मिलियन सीवेज वाटर से 33 मिलियन लीटर सीवेज वाटर बना करके उसमें से लगभग 6 मिलियन लीटर सीवेज वाटर हम बीपीसीएल को दे रहे हैं। इसके अलावा मुंबई की लगभग 2.75 लाख की आबादी को पूरा पीने का पानी दे रहे हैं। और ये पानी लगभग 5 रुपए प्रति क्यूबिक मीटर की दर से हम मुंबई म्यूनिसिपल कॉर्पोरेशन से लेते हैं। और ये पानी जो शुद्ध पीने योग्य पानी बनाने में हमारी कुल लागत जो आ रही है 89 रुपीज पर क्यूबिक मीटर आ रही है, जो लगभग 9 पैसा प्रति लीटर है। मैं इस एक सक्सेसफुल केस स्टडी के माध्यम से ये कहना चाहता हूं कि अगर 45 मिलियन सीवेज वाटर से 33 मिलियन लीटर पर डे का सीवेज वाटर ट्रीट करके बनाया जा सकता है, जो लगभग 66% है रॉ वाटर का। तो इस तरह से जो हमारे राज्यों में पेयजल की समस्या है, शहरों में पेयजल की समस्या है, तो 66% सोल्यूशन तो हम केवल सीवेज वाटर को ट्रीट करके दे सकते हैं। और एक एग्जिस्टिंग एग्जाम्पल है जिसको रिप्लिकेट करना बहुत सरल है। इसके अलावा टेक्नोलॉजी का एक उदाहरण मैं देना चाहती हूँ। सीवेज ट्रीटमेंट का भी जो काम है भारत में 80 के दशक में आया और अब धीरे धीरे उसके अच्छे परिणाम दिख रहे हैं जगह जगह। आगे आने वाले समय में तकनीकी के इस्तेमाल से हम रिसाइकलिंग और रीयूज ऑफ वाटर करके एक बड़ी समस्या का समाधान कर सकते हैं। आज जो टेक्नोलॉजी के और भी यूजेज पर हम कुछ कहना चाहेंगे कि जिस तरह से विश्व के तमाम देश तकनीकी के उपयोग से प्रभावी और सुलभ जल गुणवत्ता को सुनिश्चित कर रहे हैं, उसके साथ ही साथ जन जन को अपने नगरीय क्षेत्रों में पानी उपलब्ध करा रहे हैं। क्योंकि अमेरिका के कई एक शहर है जहां गांव और शहरों के बीच में भी 19वीं और 20वीं शताब्दी में जल युद्ध हो चुके हैं। और जल युद्ध में होता था कि शहर बढ़ते गए, शहर के जलस्रोत सिमटते गए, और ऐसे ऐसे युद्ध की कहानियां हैं जो 50-50 साल चले। सब गूगल पे उपलब्ध है, मैं समय नहीं खराब करूंगा। तो उन युद्धों में अंत में होता था कि गांव का पानी जो खेती के लिए था वो कम पड़ने लगा और शहर के लोगों के लिए पीने का पानी कम पड़ने लगा। शहर एक्सपेंड हो रहे थे, उनको पानी ज्यादा चाहिए था, लेकिन उनके पास पानी नहीं था। गांव में पानी तो था लेकिन उनकी रिक्वायरमेंट ज्यादा थी। तो इस तरह से आगे आने वाली परिस्थितियां भी हमारी भयावह न होने पाए, इस दृष्टि से हमें 2 काम करना है कि बढ़ते हुए शहरों के आकार पे कैपिंग भी करना है। शहर में जो पेयजल की आवश्यकता है जो कि बहुत कम होती है, मात्र 135 लीटर पर डे पानी की जरूरत है, और जो हम 135 लीटर में भी पानी खर्च करते हैं उसमें केवल 5 लीटर हमारा लगभग पीने में जाता है। शेष 130 लीटर पानी जो है उसको बहुत कुछ हम मितव्ययिता बरत सकते हैं। आज जो विषय है, सर के माध्यम से सुधीर कृष्ण साहब के मार्गदर्शन में हम लोग आज इस विषय को प्रस्तुत करने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं कि स्मार्ट पाइप के इस्तेमाल करके, सेंसर्स का, फ्लोटिंग सेंसर्स का इस्तेमाल करके हम वाटर सप्लाई सिस्टम को स्मार्ट कर सकते हैं, उसमें क्वालिटी वाटर को रेगुलेट कर सकते हैं और पानी के लीकेजेस को मैनेज कर सकते हैं। जो हमारे जल स्रोत है, जहां भी एक बूंद भी पानी है वहां हमें रहना चाहिए, क्योंकि मैं मानता हूं कि नारायण जो है, नारायण से ही नार शब्द बना और नार से ही नीर और पानी बना। सच तो यह है कि ब्रह्म सर्वत्र है, वो जल रूप में विद्यमान है। ब्रह्म सर्वत्र है, वो मिट्टी के रूप में विद्यमान है। क्षितिजल पावन गगन समीरा, ये पंच तत्व सर्वत्र ब्रह्म के रूप में विद्यमान है। जो हमारे जीवन दाता है, आज वो दुखी है। अगर एक सभ्यता में जो जीवन दाता है वो अपने जीवन के लिए यदि संघर्ष कर रहा हो तो हम सभी मानव को जगने का समय आ गया है। मैं आप सभी लोगों से विनती करता हूं कि जीवन दाता के जीवन के लिए एक लड़ाई छेड़ना है, और हम सभी को, जैसे वर्ल्ड बैंक ने वर्ल्ड वाटर डे पे थीम दिया, बी द चेंज व्हाट वी वांट टू सी। तो देखिए, आज दुनिया में हम जो परिवर्तन चाहते हैं वो अपने से शुरू करना है। मैं समय समाप्त हो चुका है, विषय ऐसा है कि जो मन और दिल से जुड़ा है। मैं अपने विषय को समाप्त करते हुए इतना कहना चाहता हूँ कि हमें अपने पानी का उपभोग को मितव्ययी बनाना है, और जो बारिश की पानी धरती पर आता है तो एक उत्सव है, वर्षा उत्सव मनाना चाहिए। हर किसी को अपने घर में पानी रोकने की कोशिश करनी चाहिए। अंतिम बात करते हुए मैं बात समाप्त करूंगा कि अगर जो हमारा कुल भूखंड है घर का, उसमें अगर 15% एरिया को हम वाटर स्टोरेज टैंक के रूप में बना लें तो प्रति व्यक्ति की जो प्रतिदिन की वर्ष भर की पानी की जरूरत होती है वो 50,000 लीटर की होती है। उसको हम 4x4x3 मीटर के स्ट्रक्चर में पानी को इकट्ठा करके रख सकते हैं, और वो पानी हमें मुफ्त में मिलता है और लेस पोल्यूटेड होता है। मुझे लगता है कि मैं अपनी वाणी को समय की कमी के कारण विराम देते हुए इतना निवेदन करता हूं कि इस नारायण रूपी ब्रह्म पानी की रक्षा के लिए हम सभी को आगे आना होगा। अगर समस्या को पैदा करने में सभी भागीदार हैं तो समाधान में भी सबका हाथ जोड़ना चाहिए। इसी के साथ नमस्कार, जय हिंद, जय भारत।
Thank you, Chandrabhushan Pandey ji. You have made many good points. Among them, immediately, if I can recall the 3 most significant. One is that according to the study of Mr. Pandey, greener cities attract better precipitation of rains, and therefore he has suggested that cities should undertake greening, making the cities greener for attracting more rainwater. Secondly, he has given example of a large major industry in Mumbai the Rashtriya Chemicals and Fertilizers, they are buying 45 million liter of water, sewage water per day from the municipality and converting into a very viable proposition, beneficial proposition for the municipality and for the factory itself, Rashtriya Chemical and Fertilizer themselves, ultimately benefiting the environment and the society. And thirdly, he has mentioned about the use of technological resources for better water management. Other suggestions also he has made. Wonderful presentation. Let us give a big hand to Mr. Chandrabhushan Pandey. Now friends, we have some few minutes for the question answer session. If anybody has the slip with them to be passed on to the here, kindly raise your hand so it can be collected. And meanwhile, the slips you have given already have been shared with some of the panelists. And before they speak, we have a slip from Chandrapur Municipal Corporation. Who is from Chandrapur? Kindly raise your hand. You have given a slip saying that Chandrapur Municipal Corporation is implementing PPP project of sewage water reuse. It is very interesting proposition you have made. Can you briefly explain what you can somebody pass on sir, you kindly introduce yourself also and then say in brief how does it benefit the cities and whether it can be a good role model for others. Please.
It is same like Nagpur Municipal Corporation. We are giving our treated water to thermal power plant. We have thermal power plant there. But it is not like that we are selling to water them. But as the thermal power plant has their own dam there, we are picking up water from there. 90 MLD की करीब मिलने लग जाएगा. That is a PPP model. Some part in Amrut scheme we have taken it. Some money has been put it from CSTBS and some other from private party. That is a PPP project.
So there is a very good example you have given where the city and our project, they are sharing, exchanging the water, wastewater and good water. That is what you are saying, is it not?
Yeah.
It's a wonderful project, very good. Now we have got 3 questions here given which have been shared with the panelists. I request the panelists to answer one by one. Sir.
Thank you, sir. The question is how we could make our citizens for using the. Yeah. How could we our citizens for using recycled water? In addition, I could add how could our citizens to use the recycled co-compost. So just for the co-compost, Administrative Staff College of India, AIILSG, it's a very renowned, famous organization not only in India, around the globe. It's a very well-known organization. They're working on this, they're doing a lot of research, and the most important question is the certification. So without getting certification, actually we can't encourage or we can't ask people to use. But we hope that within few years, because of the good results from the research, the certification for the co-compost from the sheets or poops will come. And similarly, for the water, recycled water, we are still not encouraging people or we are not asking people to use largely this recycled water. Rather, we are encouraging to use this water for the fields, for crops in the rural sites or in the even urban sites. So that will take time, but beyond this, we need the engagement of our city leaders. What I spoke in my presentation, that our city leaders are the guiding stars. They could guide us, they could help us, they could encourage the people because they are the leaders because of the trust of the locality. So it will take time, but we hope that it will be happen within few years. Thank you very much.
So I hope the question has been answered to your satisfaction. I can only add that you see wastewater to bring to potable level is the ultimate usage. Before ultimate, which is very costly also and challenging. But we have lot of usage of wastewater as examples have been given in the industry, in the cooling towers, in power stations, thermal power stations or wherever water is required for cooling purposes. In construction activities, you don't need to purify the water to that high level. And there are standards laid down by the pollution control boards of every country, I suppose. And they have laid down the parameters for the treated water, both in terms of dissolved solid, in terms of coliform content, and all that. So that has been taken care so that water can be safely used for non-potable usage. There is enough possibility. Avenue plantation in the cities can use, or even the municipal parks and green areas, they can use the treated water. They are using also. So there is enough possibility of saving on fresh water by using the recycled water. Ultimately, for potable use, Singapore is doing all right. That is an example. But we don't need that much scarcity of water is not there. If you can save water, the bulk water consumption is actually in the construction sector, in the industry which are around and in the cities, and also in the avenue plantation and parks. Enough we can use it and save on fresh water, and then that can be used safely. So very good question, and now I hand over to Madam. You please answer the next question. Madam Malhotra.
Thanks, Chair. The question is around what practice preparedness communities should consider based on the waterborne diseases and to climate change. As my focus was also included the importance of stakeholder engagement in our communities, so that both government and the communities, we do play part, and most importantly the issue of capacitation of our communities on these issues of climate change, and how best can we mitigate both government and the communities.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Malhotra ji. Now I request Sanjeev Jha ji to take the next question.
Thank you, sir. I'll first read out the question from Mr. Vipin Paliwal, Commissioner, CMC. Yeah. As many cities have already a good road network, now many cities are going to implement a sewage network. For this, we have to break road. So roads have to rebuild. Is there any option for this? In fact, it's a great question, sir, and thank you for asking. In fact, there are two solutions which exist according to me. The first solution is that I would like to quote a live example from Ayanagar colony in the southern Delhi, where approximately 250 households have been connected through a decentralized small-scale sewage treatment plant, employing the established technology of biodigester toilet developed by DRDO. The interesting thing is that each of these households have been connected through a sewer network running into, I think, less than a kilometer or a kilometer and a half, which is not difficult to do. And then so once the toilet is used, flushed, the fecal matter passes through that biodigester chamber. What comes out of that chamber is almost water that gets collected into a pond which is constructed within that colony itself, and from there, just employing a 0.5 horsepower to pump, the entire water is pumped onto the reed bed, and what we end up getting is 50,000 liters of water, which can be effectively used every day to at least irrigate the ornamentals. See, the household there are demanding that water back, but in the absence of a very clear-cut guidelines by the NGT and the government, it is not being implemented. So as of now, that water is actually being wasted. Another solution lies in being able to construct an FSTP in that vicinity, which would not require any sewer network, but then scheduled desludging of the septic tank would have to be employed. So in my mind, these two solutions exist which can be used. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Now, friends, we have Mr. Dheeraj Sant Dasani, who is Associate in Urban Development Niti Aayog. He has posed three questions. And sir, your questions are here, and I request first question to be addressed by Mr. Manish, and his second question by Mr. P.K. Srivastav, and third by Mr. Chandrabhushan Pandey. Okay, so I'm passing on the same slip. I will make in 3 parts. You want to ask us? You please explain also. You please explain. No harm. But let me hand over the question to the panelists so that they can also read. That's why the question they are given in advance. The panelists can read sustainability of modeling of partnering with NGOs for water quality. Who fund the NGO on sustainable basis and policy gap, if any. You can explain further. You please.
I guess thank you everyone for amazing presentations. The question regarding water quality monitoring was, as sir mentioned about the West Bengal case study. But in urban areas, the scale is huge compared to villages. So who will fund these NGOs on a sustained basis? Because water comes to our houses every day, and the quality needs to be there every day. So is there being from Niti Aayog, I would like to understand, is there a policy gap or a gap in the mission framework which kind of stops this model to be scalable at pan-India level?
Yeah. So if we, so thank you for this question, and I would like to kind of give a context also. I mentioned initially that it is linked to SDG 6.1 where safely managed water supply is there. And when we talk about safely managed, one of the word which is also mentioned is affordable. That is mentioned basically to capture the community participation point of view also. That ultimately it can be initially funded or financed by government through their flagship programs, but ultimately it has to be kind of taken over by community through various business models. It can be through NGOs, it can be through private sector, it can be through government also. So in that process, the case study which I presented was basically from Jal Jeevan Mission. Initially it is being financed by government, state government and central government together under JJM. The operation maintenance funds are coming through 15th Finance Commission, but this process is transitioning towards empowering communities to take over. So this initial support is just to kind of give that, to establish those systems to be in place to support this, but ultimately it will be taken over by community. And policy gaps, I would say JJM is one of the ambitious program where government has developed very good guidelines in which this framework is mentioned. But I think we can definitely think about sustainability of finance commission funds also, that what is the kind of roadmap for that through which community will be able to kind of understand what will be their role in long-term operation maintenance of schemes. Thank you.
Thank you. Now the next question will be handled by Mr. P.K. Srivastava. I am passing on the mic. And after that,
So the question is, what happens to wastewater is also important. Only FSTP focus leaves out wastewater. What strategy is needed for comprehensive planning, best practices if?
Sir, if I may add a point there. If you see the Swachh Bharat Mission 2 guidelines for cities having population less than 1 lakh, they are not supporting standalone FSTPs. The idea being that if you try solving the liquid waste problem only through focusing on fecal sludge, you are leaving out the used water, wastewater part, right? Which in quantum is multifold. So although the pollution loading of fecal sludge is higher, but we can't, do away with the wastewater also. That's why the idea came up that we must focus on co-treatment. If I'm a city where I don't have a STP and I don't have an FSTP also, I should not plan for a new FSTP, rather I should plan for an STP which can also treat fecal sludge. That way I'll be able to address both the problems, fecal sludge and wastewater both.
In SBM 2.0, and if I talk about the Uttar Pradesh, which we are preparing city sanitation plan at city level. As per the guideline of SBM 2.0, we are taking the projects of the not only for the standalone FSTP, it is a co-treatment plant. All the drains which are going to the STP, that includes the black water and grey water as such, as your question is. So in Amrit, it was only FSTP orientated wastewater management. But in SBM 2.0, it is a whole management including the grey water and black water. Already in 700 cities, we have completed our city sanitation plan, where we have taken the entire sanitation system, including all the grey water and waste water, and definitely there would be some issue of the land when we will implement this project. This time it is only in the planning stage. When we will implement, because for the STP we need larger land, which is very difficult. The procurement is very difficult in the urban area. The land is very costly, so it will be a challenge. And simultaneously, the capex and opex will also be a challenge. But we see, because it is the guideline of Government of India and SBM 2.0, the cities having population less than 1 lakh, they have to go for the co-treatment. Thank you.
Sorry, sir. I guess the last question is for Dr. Sanjeev Jha, sir, because it's about the performance guarantee aspect that you spoke, sir. If the Government of India takes the payment guarantee aspect for the STPs, my question is, if you see the CPCB reports on the quality of STP processes, out of 26,000 MLD of operational capacity, only half of it complies to the CPCB norms. So when the STP's performance is very low as of now, the quality of processes is very low, how the suggestion of Government of India taking payment guarantee would work, and if at all it has to be done, how we will address the problem of STPs working at...
Good question, but then a very simple answer. See, if the entire nation is actually looking up to the private sector, because the IC's mandate is to be able to ensure that the private sector participation and investment in the sector increases, right? So private sector would be able to invest both in terms of techno managerial support plus even the financial investment, only if the return is guaranteed. That goes without saying, right? So when Vicky is actually coming out with this recommendation, it is not all across. Like for instance, I think it was in the news hardly about maybe 10-15 days ago, that some of the existing sewage treatment plan under Delhi Jal Board are being revamped. They are being revamped in order to be able to apply the right kind of technology, and the treated sewage would then be used to revamp the lakes around. When the lakes would be revamped with the treated sewage, then it would lead to the improvement in the water table. Then the groundwater can be extracted and the Delhi's water supply can be revamped. So if a scenario is like this, and if the Delhi Jal Board feels that the private sector can come and at least pick up the operation and maintenance costs, because then it will be an effective regime of operation and maintenance with user charges being employed. So somebody has to guarantee that, because if the private sector is actually guaranteed that payment to them would be in time, and if only Government of India can provide such a guarantee, then probably it's a win-win situation for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sanjeev Jha, for very lucidly, but at the same time in brief addressing the question. Sir, we are now running short of time, so I have got one question to Chandrabhushan Pandey ji on behalf of everyone, a point which he could not complete at that time for want of time, but quick answer from him, and followed by I got some comment from Mr. V. Suresh, who many people, if not all, most people will know him, very senior person. Sir, my question to you is that you mentioned about the technology, which somehow for short of want of time we could not. But sensors you have given a very important hint. Now in multi-story apartments, the water inlet is from various sides. The vertical supply comes in every room, there is separate connection. So there is no metering of water in a multi-story complex. But sensors offer some hope, possibly. Whether using the sensors, we can compute the water consumed in an apartment which is supplied to different toilets from different points, and there is no meter possible in every meter. You have to take 6 or 8 meters you have to install in an apartment to take a reading. Whereas digital sensors inserted in the pipe, if they can be digitally connected, whether is it possible? Do you think it will work?
अच्छा सवाल है सर, और हमारे देश के सामने बेसिकली देखा जाए तो एक बहुत प्रासंगिक सवाल है, और यूरोप के कई देशों में इस तरह की टेक्नोलॉजीज उपलब्ध है जो कि आउटलेट पर पानी जितना निकल रहा है वहाँ मेजर होता है, और उसमें कुछ ऐसी भी डिजाइन्स आज आ गई हैं जो टॉयलेट में कि वो लीटर्स उनके फिक्स है, तो वो वहाँ पे मैकेनिकल डिवाइसेस भी कुछ लाई गई हैं जो कि पानी को मेजर कर रही हैं। लेकिन ज़रूरत ये है कि आज भारत जैसे देश में जहाँ पे संसाधनों की कमी है और उसमें हम इस तरह की टेक्नोलॉजी पे कितना इन्वेस्ट कर सकते हैं, क्योंकि अल्टीमेटली ये कॉस्ट इफेक्टिव और वाइबल बनाने के लिए ज़रूरी है कि जिस तरह से घरों को बनाने की लागत बढ़ रही है, जिस तरह से हम लोग घरों को इंटीरियर्स करने में बहुत पैसे लगते हैं, तो ये सब जो नेचुरल रिसोर्सेज पे खर्च करने की बात आती है तो लोग अमूमन तैयार नहीं होते हैं। मैं मानता हूँ कि इसमें R&D का रोल होगा और सरकार के हस्तक्षेप से सस्ती और व्यवहारिक तकनीकी जन सुलभ कराई जा सकती है, जिसमें कि प्रत्येक पॉइंट पर जो पानी खर्च हो रहा है दैट कैन बी मेजर्ड। और मेरा एक सुझाव है सर, जो आपके सवाल से जुड़ा ही है, कि जो अपार्टमेंट कल्चर है हमारे यहाँ, तो वहाँ पे जो इनलेट है पानी का, एक तो इनलेट पे हम मेजर कर ले, दूसरा जो इनलेट हर फ्लैट का होता है तो उसके इनलेट जो पॉइंट होता है उसको मेजर कर सकते हैं, तो 2 बड़े जो कंट्रोल सिस्टम हो सकते हैं। तीसरा जो आपका सजेशन है कि ईच एंड एवरी पॉइंट पे जो पानी कंज्यूम हो रहा है वो मेजर होने से आगे हम पानी को कैसे इकोनॉमिकली यूज कर सकते हैं, उसके लिए हम अपना एक घर का प्लान बना सकते हैं। मुझे लगता है टेक्नोलॉजी उपलब्ध है सर, अब वो टेक्नोलॉजी का जो व्यवहारीकरण है और उसके पीछे जो पैसे का इन्वॉल्वमेंट है और उसमें जन भागीदारी कैसे होगी, लोगों का मन कैसे बनेगा कि मुझे इस टेक्नोलॉजी पर इन्वेस्ट करना है। क्योंकि मैं यहाँ विनती करना चाहूंगा इस विषय को लेके कि पानी एक दुर्लभ संसाधन है, लेकिन उसकी सुलभता इतनी सहज है। जैसे हम उत्तर प्रदेश के हैं, जब वहाँ हम लोग ड्रिप इरिगेशन की बात करते हैं तो किसान सुनने को नहीं तैयार होता है, वो कहते हैं इतना जमीन के नीचे पानी भरा पड़ा है, नदियों में बह रहा है, तालाब में। तो अभी क्या है, जो दुर्लभ संसाधन है, इसको लेकर के भविष्य में जो समस्याएं आने वाली है उसके लिए जब हम लोगों को अवेयर कर पाएंगे, और बड़ी बात जो है, जो हमारा कल अंधकारमय है, कल आने वाली जो हमारी चुनौतियां हैं, चैलेंजेस हैं, अगर उसके बारे में हम लोगों का मन बना पाएंगे तो ऐसी तकनीकियों का व्यवहारीकरण हो पाएगा। और मुझे लगता है ये आवश्यकता है और करना ही पड़ेगा। अगर जल्दी शुरू करेंगे तो हमारा भविष्य उज्जवल होगा।
Thank you, Pandey ji. Thank you very much. Big hand to Professor Pandey ji for his advice. Now, friends, I request Shri V. Suresh to say his views on the issue of water and sustainable water and sanitation. Brief, of course.
Thank you so much, sir, for the wonderful way you conducted the session and the brilliant input which has come from each of the panelists. Since you asked a specific question and answers did come on use of the grey water and black water, which we call as the wastewater, I thought one significant area where we can make a bigger impact, which you already started practicing, is complete use of flushing water. If 135 liters per head per day is what is given as required in the National Building Code in the CPHEO standards, roughly about 60 liters, 4 times to 5 times people use the toilet each per head, in which case of the order 12 into 5, 60. So around roughly 45% of the water, which is all drinking water, potable quality, which you're using for flushing the toilet there. So one big question that can come is recycled water up to a certain level so quality can be utilized for that, in which case 45% of the fresh water demand comes down straight away. It's already started implementing in all projects with the green buildings, where it's made it compulsory that where the sewage treatment plant is there, part of that, and you have another pipeline coming on, fresh water coming for drinking there, and the other pipeline for the recycled water. Recycled water will be the connection for all the flush toilets over there, and the amount of saving is phenomenal. And I think this is a very major one. Of course, Chandrapur has told, or the electricity board, and Saab has told.
please come forward and felicitate Mr. Manish Masuja. Mr. Anuj Asthana. Ms. Neetu Matku to please come forward and felicitate Dr. Sanjeev Jha. To please come forward and felicitate Mr. Manish. Mr. Chair Farooqi to please come forward and felicitate Mr. P.K. Srivastava. Mr. Ashutosh Pandey to please come forward and felicitate Mr. Chandrabhushan Pandey. Come forward for the group picture. Thank you.